Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be going over virtual assistants versus higher level talent. Now, both have their pros and cons, and that's what I'm going to go over in this video. First, let's talk about the virtual assistants. So virtual assistants can be really from anywhere, but typically in Southeast Asia is a main hub for virtual assistants. They're best for copy-paste tasks and repetitive processes. Think like spreadsheet work, email responses, and video editing. The reason there's a $5 bill there is because a lot of them charge $5 to $6 per hour. Now, this is by no means a hate video on virtual assistants. They have their time and place. I've used virtual assistants for the past 7 years inside of my business. I still use virtual assistants to this day. They're very, very skilled in certain scenarios. In different scenarios, they're just not the right tool to keep in the tool belt. Let's go over the pros and cons of the virtual assistants. Some of the pros are they're budget friendly, low risk, easy to find, and easy to onboard. Hiring a virtual assistant at $5 an hour is a lot cheaper than alternatives in the labor market. They're definitely good use for those copy paste and basic tasks. Overall, they're pretty low risk, and since they're so cheap, it's not that big of a risk to take them on, right? If this is something where you've never hired someone before, I encourage you to go get a virtual assistant, go find one, implement them into your business, and see how they can assist you in kind of a part-time setting. Overall, there's not a lot of risk there. Virtual assistants in general are super easy to find. There's tons of different sites with them. You can go to onlinejobs.ph, you can go to Fiverr, you can go to Upwork, just to name a few of these sites. It's really not that hard to find a ton of virtual assistants. The hard part with virtual assistants is really just filtering through them and figuring out, okay, is this person being honest in what they say they can do? What's their skill level look like, their track record, etc. I'll talk about that a little bit more in some other videos. Overall, they're very easy to onboard. So since you're using them for basic tasks, there's not that much red tape. It's not that hard to get them involved inside of your business. If they're just doing copy paste stuff in an Excel spreadsheet or Google Doc, all you need is access to that. You're not going to give them, financial banking information day one, just how you wouldn't do that with someone you met on the street. So as you can see, virtual assistants have a lot of pros, but unfortunately, like anything, they come with some cons. Those being the quality of work, the inconsistent availability, and then the time difference. Like anything, you get what you pay for. The virtual assistants have their time and place, but you can't expect to scale your business to incredible heights with just a $5 an hour worker. Inconsistent availability is probably one of the biggest cons with virtual assistants. I've used remote talent at the time of this recording for about 7 years. I've had super great experiences and then also some pretty negative ones. And sometimes when you first hire virtual assistants, they're really good for the first 30, 45 days. But then after that, problems start to happen. The problem is you don't know if these problems are actually real or not. It'll start off with storms, internet connectivity, electricity being out, family issues, friend issues. Sometimes they're juggling multiple jobs, so you can't really tell what is actually going on with your worker. It makes them inconsistent. It's a lot hard to build your business based on these $5 an hour workers. For small tasks, for part-time, they're super great. But what I've noticed is over time, the return kind of begins to dwindle just because problems or these issues pop up. And I get that people have issues and problems with infrastructure, family, friends, but the frequency of this with some of these virtual assistants is really absurd. It is more than what's happened in the entirety of some people's lives happen in a week period. You really can't tell what's real and what's not. So it just makes it very, very inconsistent, and it becomes a headache over time. There's no use employing someone if you're not sure if they're going to be able to complete the task every time you assign a task to them. This last con is something people don't think about very often, but the time difference. Let's say you're hiring from Southeast Asia and you're back in the States, Mountain Standard, Central Time, Eastern Time. They're 12 hours away from you. They're working in the middle of the night. Depending on your time zone, it's going to be a perfect 12-hour shift. So if it's 8 a.m. for you, it's 8 p.m. for them. If it's 2 p.m. for you, it's 2 a.m. for them in the morning. And after a while, this night shift and kind of graveyard shift takes a toll on their health and some of the decision-making processes. And so I've noticed that on a long-term basis, hiring virtual assistants isn't always the best option. Sometimes it is, sometimes it works, and there's super positive experiences, yes, but after a long time, the night shift takes a toll, and it can be difficult with time zones, and even people who have worked on nighttime for many, many years sometimes make mistakes with the time zones. So it's much better to try to hire a little bit more near shore. but we'll get into that. Let's talk about the higher level talent. Higher level talent are educated or skilled workers from developed countries in Europe and Latin America. They're used for more complex work like development, operations, client communication, and sales. Just like virtual assistants, they have their own pros and cons. Pros: high skill ability and competence, strong communication, and leadership ability. Since they're more capable than just doing copy paste and basic tasks, there are very, very few limitations. This makes them viable substitutes for local workforces. If the task can be done remotely, then they can do it. I really think one of the biggest pros is the strong communication level with this higher level talent. You don't need to tell them what to do all the time. With virtual assistants, a lot of times there's a lot of instruction that's needed. You need to tell them each day, hey, this is what your day is going to look like. You need to do XYZ task, kind of like a computer would operate. There's an input and then a said output. With higher level talent, you can give them vague instructions and they will go figure it out, and the end result will be very, very nice. It's something that really separates a good workforce from a bad workforce, is being able to give vague instructions, the workforce being able to just figure it out and create that end product instead of you having to do every single thing and tell people how to do their jobs. If you're having to tell people how to do their jobs, you're already losing the battle. An often overlooked pro of higher level talent is the leadership ability. You can hire, let's say, someone for fulfillment. Maybe they're a customer service manager. Maybe they're someone who's doing media buying. And eventually, as the business grows, you can build a department around them. Since they can think for themselves, they have a high level of skill, ability, and competence, you're able to kind of duplicate them and they can help with the training of new remote workers. Instead of hiring several VAs and kind of having them just be the offshore development or offshore work as a kind of an island out there miles ahead or hours ahead of your local workforce, this team can be more of a department of your company, just in a different location. So this is a final pro of higher level talent. I think it's a very, very strong one. Just like virtual assistants, higher level talent has their cons. One is the higher price, the competitive market, and the overqualification. When compared to a $5 an hour VA, they're going to be a lot more expensive. So businesses making under a certain threshold, let's say 10K a month, it can be a little bit more daunting to bring this talent on. That means there's going to be a little bit higher risk. If you're paying someone $2K, $2,500 a month versus paying a virtual assistant $500 a month, it's a lot more risk bringing on one of these higher level talent individuals. The second con of this talent is the competitive market. This talent knows what it's worth, and it can be challenging if you don't have experience finding and retaining this talent to find and retain the talent. Finding the talent is half the battle, but the other half of the battle starts once you hire them and you need to retain them. If you don't have growth opportunities, if you don't have challenges inside of your business that they can work on, they're going to eventually leave because they want to be challenged, they want to be pushed for growth. This third con happens when sometimes people hire this higher level talent for virtual assistant type of tasks. If you hire them for a virtual assistant task, some sort of copy paste and data entry, you're going to be wasting their skills. You may have someone who can help you get to that next level in your business, but you're not even going to know it because you have them doing a very, very basic task that could be automated with AI or done with a cheaper alternative like a virtual assistant. They're high performers, they want to be challenged, so if you bore them, they will leave. As far as a quick summary, you need to look at this talent as tools in a tool belt. You're not going to use a hammer for what you'd use a screwdriver for, and vice versa. Virtual assistants have their time and place. There's fantastic people who are virtual assistants and their skills are really great. Other times you need to utilize higher level talent if you're really trying to grow and scale your company. I would not rule out using virtual assistants. I would not rule out using higher level talent. You need to have kind of a mix of different team members to be able to successfully grow your company. So that's it for the video. If you have any questions about hiring this higher level talent from Central, Eastern Europe, and Latin America, let us know by dropping any comments down below. Our team will get back to you and provide you with an answer. If you want to learn a little bit more about what we do at Zeboda when it comes to the sourcing, the interview, the finding of this talent, let us know by going to zeboda.io and booking a call. Thanks.